So now we have one that's a bit more trickier to name, but of course we still follow our rules, and our first step is always to find the longest chain. So go right ahead and look for the longest chain. Okay, if you would have said and identified this as being the longest chain, then you would be correct. Okay, very good. All right, now the next step is we need to number the carbon in the longest chain so that each substituent gets the lowest number. Always going to be our second step. So we're numbering it. So at the bottom here, we numbered it from left to right, and at the top, we numbered it from right to left. Now, if you look at it, we have two substituents, and we have two substituents, and if we select left to right, you would have the substituents being on carbon number 4 and carbon number 5 if we selected left to right. Okay. However, if we select right to left, you're going to have your substituents on carbon number 4 and carbon number 3. Hence, we need to go with the smallest one. Okay, which one is the smallest? 4 and 5 or 4 and 3? Okay, most definitely the second, right, which is 4 and 3. So that's going to be the number given to your substituents, 4 and 3. Okay, so identify your substituent. We've already identified it, right? And then you're going to give the substituent a number and a name. We've already given it a number also. Now we just need to give it a name. Okay, so one carbon atom here, all right, one carbon atom as a substituent. We know that this CH3 from the previous video, all right, our CH3 would have been called a methyl group. Okay, and then our two carbon atoms bonded together would have given us the substituents called ethyl. Okay, substituent called ethyl. Next, so we've given it a name and a number. If you don't recall these, just look at the table. All right, just go back and look at the table and you will be okay. Okay, because one carbon atom was a methyl and two carbon atoms as a substituent is called an ethyl. Okay, so the next thing is remember that the dashes, anytime you're writing numbers and words, you're going to have to include the dashes in between them just to separate them. Okay, and then you have commas are used for more than one of the same substituent. So here we have different substituents, so we're not going to use the commas. Okay, so now what would we call this? Let's put it all together. What would we call this? All right. So we would call this 3-ethyl 4-methyl heptane. Okay, so our substituents, all right, was we had two substituents. You have one ethyl, one methyl. Which one do you decide to put first? Normally, when you have two different substituents, you put the one that you put it in alphabetical order. So this is why we have ethyl first and then we have methyl first. But if you look at it, we give each of these a number and a name. That's what you do to your substituent. Give each of them a number and a name, and then follow it with the name of the parent. So 3-ethyl is for this one because it's on carbon number 3, and it's the ethyl, 2 carbon atoms, and then you see your dash, and then you have a 4. Okay, the 4 is for the methyl group, all right, and then it's followed by the name of the parent, which is 6 carbon atoms, which is a heptane. That is all. So now we have our last one, and this one might look a little tricky, but it's quite simple. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do, of course, is we have to find our longest chain. Okay, so this right here would be our longest chain, right? Good, everyone got that one, good. The next thing is we have to number the carbon in the longest chain so that each substituent gets the lowest number. All right, so if we do that, this carbon will be carbon atom number 1, carbon atom number 2, carbon atom number 3, and carbon atom number 4. Okay, so that is assuming that we start counting from left to right. However, if we count from right to left, this becomes carbon atom number 1, carbon atom number 2, carbon atom number 3 here, and carbon atom number 4. So we could either give this the number 2, or we could give this the number 3 based on if we count it from left to right. However, 3 and 2, which is the smallest? 2. Okay, so this is the number that you need to give to your carbon, to this carbon atom, okay, that has these 2 substituents attached to it. Okay. The next thing is we need to identify the substituents. Okay, so what is this substituent called? What is his name? Okay, what is his name? So we have one substituent here, and then we also have one substituent here. Now, if we look on the right-hand side, a substituent with the CH3 group, we call it a methyl group. So that is the name of our substituent. So we know that our substituent is called methyl. All right, we know that it's called a methyl. And we know that its number is number 2. Okay, we know that. And then what else do we know? Okay, so we've given the substituent a number and we've given it a name. Now, the next thing is we need to remember that we need to include dashes in between our numbers and our names. Okay, so I have a 2. I need to remember that a dash need to go in between my number and my name. Okay, and then also that commas are used for more than one of the same substituent. So this rule is going to apply here because now we have more than one of the same substituents. So this is a methyl group and this is also a methyl group at the bottom. So we have 2 of the same substituents. Yeah, that's what we have. So how do we go about naming this? All right, so we need to go ahead and use our commas. Okay, so this is 2. This is our methyl group attached to carbon number 2, and this is our another methyl group attached to carbon number 2. Okay, so how do we name it? Okay, so this is our name. Okay, so we're gonna have a 2 because that's the number for this methyl, and then another 2 because this is the number for this methyl. Okay, both of them are attached to the same carbon atom. Okay, which is 2. And then you need to put your dashes because you're going to now put some words in there. All right, and you're going to use now you're going to have to use a prefix, okay? So because you have 2 of the methyl, you have to use the prefix to know that it's 2. So that's why we have the di here, and then we can now put the name of our substituent, which is the methyl. So we have our di, then we have our methyl, and then we have our butane. So each substituent needs to be given his respect. He needs to be given a number and a name. Okay, so you have the 2, 2, because we're not going to be writing the methyl twice. Okay, it's redundant for us to write the methyl twice. So we don't write it twice, but we just give the number that is attached to. So you have to give the number that each of them is attached to, because it didn't have to be attached to the same carbon atom. It could have been attached to any other carbon atom. Okay, keep that in mind. So we have them attached to the same carbon atom, so this is why we are going to give it the number 2, 2, and then the prefix, which is di, and then we put the methyl, and then of course we have the butane, which is our parent chain. 1, 2, 3, 4 carbon atoms, and that's it.